Matthew Stafford, you did a little report on him real quick. Give us the rundown real quick as a Ram fan, as a Stafford fan myself. And we're going to be at practice. We're going to be at practice next week. I need to know what's going on with my guy.
Y'all ready?
All right, so I happen to be in my room that has the models in it, or one of the models. I haven't recorded the video on this yet, so I'm going to do it after this. This is a normal. I'm assuming this is lumbar. First off, I'm assuming it's lumbar. They haven't said anything about cervical, and they've pretty much been alluding to lumbar the whole time, so that's what I'm assuming. So if we look at lumbar spine here, disc, bone, so on and so forth, nerve comes out. So if you look at if you chop yourself in half and look at it, you get the nucleus propulsus, which is the jelly inside of the disc, and then you have a thick ligament that is basically the outside of the disc. What happens is that thick ligament often has a tendency to get weaker or herniate. And what happens is that pressure of that the pressure of the body causes that gel to sneak out any weak areas. It looks like that. This is the spinal cord. So if that compresses the spinal cord, then it can go to either or both sides. Now, if you want to look at it from a frontal view, it would look like that. So the problem is you still have ligaments around here. They don't show them in the model. But this would be a normal size nerve. This is a herniated disc nerve. See how much larger it is? So it's much larger. So essentially what happens is that nerve goes from plenty of space to no space. And what happens when it gets no space is it gets bigger. So now you just made the space even worse. The issue with this is it's probably either L4 or L5, which is where they pretty much all are. They can technically be in other places, but that's not very common. And these are the
I got a call.
That's a hell of an explanation, though. Because listen, there you
these are the axial loads for the upper body. So if you're rotating, the energy goes through your low back and it has to go through this disc, or discs. So, and the nerve runs the show. So if the nerve has plenty of space, we're good. If that nerve starts to get compressed because the jelly is popping out, or the ligament is thick, or the bone doesn't have a whole lot of space anymore, then you have sharp stabbing, you have throbbing, aching, you have muscle spasms, you can have numbness and tingling, like you can have anything depending on what the nerve's doing. So essentially what they're going to do is they're going to go in and actually inject this area with a cortisone injection. Basically a super strong anti-inflammatory. The problem is that doesn't do anything to the disc. The disc is still exactly the same. You just decrease the inflammation to hope that the pain gets better. But what did you just do? You tricked the brain into thinking there's no more injury, but you didn't fix the injury. So over time, either this comes back or it gets worse because now you're pushing through a mild injury and making it moderate.
What about synovial fluid? What about synovial fluid? Is there a problem? Can he lack or have too much?
So if the disc herniates out into the spinal column, you can actually push on the spinal cord. Now, most spinal cords end at L1, kind of the top part of the lumbar. So L4, 5, there's no often risk of paralyzation because there's no main concerns down. This is thoracic, this is cervical. Obviously, you have a completely different story. Now, the cervical has a lot less space, so it doesn't take a whole lot to irritate it. Thoracic is kind of in between, and then lumbar has tons of space, but unfortunately, that's where all the energy goes. So, and the problem at the end of the day is ligaments that are trying to stabilize are weak. So they're almost like an elastic band, and when that energy goes through it, when you were 15, you can handle that energy no problem. But as that elastic band gets weaker, now you have too much play, and that play will translate and cause that disc to herniate, cause that that bone to rotate, something like that. So long story short, they probably will get him ready for week 1. The question is, can he take a hit? Can he escape the pocket? Is he going to have numbness and tingling? Is he going to have any weakness? Can he move? I would not be surprised if this impacts him at some point for most, if not all, of the season. Best case scenario, he looks normal, but anybody who's ever had a herniated disc can speak to this. I mean, you're miserable if it's mild, you're miserable. if you're not mild and it's moderate to severe, like you can't even get out of bed. Like, never mind trying to run an offense. Never mind trying to throw a ball down on a seam in between two corners, at 50 miles an hour to Devontae Adams. Like, now you're starting to talk about very specific things that require a lot of energy, a lot of accuracy, and you're asking him to do that 30, 40 times in a game.
Hey, Doc, explain real quick. It's not necessarily getting hit, though.
Swiss.
They don't gotta get hit. He can just make a throw in clean pocket and fucking, like, I've had it happen so many times. Like, it ain't even a hit. It's really gonna be something.
It doesn't need to be a hit.
Yeah.
Because think about when you're throwing with your right arm, you're activating your right.
He's getting blown up.
When you're throwing with your right arm, you're activating your left.
Right here, Smitty. Boom. And this part right here fucks up.
I already know.
You know, because when you squatted that fake weight.
Nah, it's real. And we can show it and bring it up and show the.
Go ahead.
Office is calling me. I'll answer him in a minute. So, long story short, if you throw your right arm, you're going to have stabilization of your left hip because it's an opposite thing, right? So what happens is a lot of the times you constantly throw with the right, and that left hip needs to activate that glute, and the glute is responsible for stabilizing that lumbar. So now you're trying to move, you're trying to get, catch a bad snap or high snap or low snap, or trying to get out of the way. Instead of doing a nice pretty pass, you do some of these crazy things that Mahomes does. There's so many moving parts to football, and everything happens in 2-3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever it is, that it's hard. This is a very challenging thing. And the problem is the entire team pretty much depends on him, at least directly or indirectly, right? Jimmy G is good, but is he on the same level? No. And that's the tricky part, right? That's the tricky part. And anybody who says, hey, he's definitely going to be affected for XYZ, he's going to play the whole season, he's going to miss the whole season, we don't know. We don't know. We can't say that. The problem is this is a big deal. This has massive potential to affect this whole team. Regardless of how much money you pay him, that money doesn't matter. If that back doesn't cooperate, it don't matter.
Yeah, it's bad for the league. It's not just the Rams and the Ram fans. It's bad for the league. It's
unfortunate.
Yeah, no doubt. Doc, always a pleasure.
And he's got a lot of issues with his back. I mean, he's got a crazy injury history. He's got the craziest one I've ever seen.
I blame fucking Detroit. But anyway,